It was a cold winter night in 2008. Dr. Rayhan was working the night shift at Sahil General Hospital, an old government hospital located far from the city center. The corridors were dim, the air was thick, and the silence was broken only by the occasional beep of life support machines or the soft creak of metal trolleys moving in the distance. Dr. Rayhan wasn't new to night duties. He had seen things: pain, birth, death, but nothing truly strange. Not yet. At around 2:43 a.m., a nurse walked into his office and informed him about a patient in Ward C who had just passed away, a young girl, around 22. Her name was Aisha. Cause of death, unknown. She had been admitted just hours earlier with signs of trauma and deep unconsciousness, but no visible wounds. As per protocol, Dr. Rayhan had to go and officially declare her dead. He walked into the cold ward, the flickering tube light making the whole place feel eerily off. Aisha lay still on the stretcher, her face peaceful, too peaceful. The nurse tied a red identification band around her wrist, marking her officially deceased. In this hospital, red meant one thing: dead body, no resuscitation. Dr. Rayhan signed the paperwork and was about to leave when he noticed something odd. Aisha's eyes, they were slightly open. He leaned closer. Her pupils were fixed and dilated. Classic sign of death. Still, he felt something strange in the air, like the room didn't want him there. He shook it off and walked out. Dr. Rayhan headed towards the elevator to go back to the third floor, where his office was. As he stood near the lift, he noticed a young girl standing beside him. She looked about the same age as the deceased patient. She had a pale face, long black hair, and wore a hospital gown. She smiled politely. He thought she might be a visitor or someone lost in the hospital at this hour. He didn't think much of it. They chatted casually for a minute. She asked about his work, about how many people he sees die every week. Strange questions, but he was too tired to care. The elevator arrived. The doors opened. She didn't move. He gestured toward the open lift. "Aren't you coming in?" She shook her head. "No. I'm waiting for someone." He stepped inside and pressed the button. But just before the doors closed, he saw her raise her hand and wave at him. There was a red band around her wrist. His heart skipped a beat. He quickly pressed the emergency stop button, but the doors had already shut, and the lift was descending. The elevator suddenly stopped at the basement, a floor that was locked for years and officially unused. The doors creaked open. The hallway was pitch black, but there was a flickering light far down the corridor. As if something, or someone, was there. He didn't step out. Instead, he reached for the control panel to press the door close button. Just then, a girl appeared in front of the elevator. She looked similar to Aisha, but something was off. Her head was slightly tilted, her gown was stained, and her eyes were completely black. She stepped forward. Panicking, Dr. Rayhan slammed the door close button. The doors shut just in time. He felt sweat dripping down his back. As the lift moved back up, he tried to make sense of what was happening. Was this some sick prank? A hallucination? The lift reached the third floor. The doors opened. And there, standing right in front of him, was the same girl he had spoken to earlier near the lift. She was smiling. "You didn't let her in," she whispered. Dr. Rayhan froze. What? "You didn't let her in," she repeated. "But why?" He stared at her wrist. There it was. The elevator doors closed with a soft ding. Dr. Rayhan's hands trembled slightly as he stared at the girl standing before him. He looked at her, his heart pounding in his chest. He had just seen her in the basement, but here she was again, alive and smiling. Her red band gleamed in the soft light of the elevator. "Who are you?" Dr. Rayhan's voice cracked. "I'm just a friend," she replied, her voice unnaturally calm. You shouldn't have left her behind. Dr. Rayhan felt the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. The words didn't make sense. What did she mean? Who had he left behind? A vision of Aisha, the patient he had just declared dead, flashed in his mind. The girl with the red band around her wrist. I didn't leave anyone behind, he muttered, shaking his head in disbelief. The girl chuckled softly, the sound unnerving. Oh, but you did. You left her behind in the basement. She was waiting for you, you know. The elevator jolted as it descended again. This time, it didn't stop at the 3rd floor. It moved downward. Dr. Rayhan's heart raced. The last time the elevator had descended, it had stopped at the basement. He had felt the cold presence there, the girl who resembled Aisha. You're lying, Dr. Rayhan said, his voice barely above a whisper. This isn't real. None of this is happening. But deep down, he knew something was wrong. The elevator came to an abrupt halt. The lights flickered and dimmed, and the air grew heavier. The girl smiled again, but this time, it wasn't a friendly smile. It was something dark, sinister. You're going to see her now, she said softly. She's waiting. Before Dr. Rayhan could react, the elevator doors creaked open. And there, standing in front of him, was Aisha. Dr. Rayhan stepped out of the elevator, his mind a whirl of confusion. How was this possible? Aisha was supposed to be dead. He had just signed her death certificate. But here she was, standing before him, her pale face blank and lifeless. She reached out a hand, her fingers unnaturally cold, and touched his arm. Help me, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I can't leave. I'm stuck. The words sent a shiver down Dr. Rayhan's spine. Something was terribly wrong. A sudden wave of dizziness overtook him. The world around him seemed to shift, the walls of the hospital distorting like a funhouse mirror. His vision blurred, and he stumbled backward. He tried to call for help, but his voice was lost in the thick, suffocating silence. He looked around. Nothing made sense. The hallway seemed endless, stretching further than it should. Then, a whisper broke through the silence. It's not over, it said. You can't leave. As Dr. Rayhan stumbled down the hallway, he heard the girl's voice again. You should have listened, she said softly. Now you're part of it. He turned around, but Aisha was gone. All that remained was the red band, lying on the ground in front of him, just like the one on her wrist. The world around him began to change. The hospital that had once seemed so familiar was now foreign. Shadows danced along the walls, and a low, ominous hum filled the air. Dr. Rayhan reached for his phone, desperate to call someone, anyone. But when he looked at the screen, it was blank. The time read 2:43 a.m., the same time when he had first entered the ward to declare Aisha dead. Where am I? He whispered, his voice trembling. What's happening? Suddenly, a cold gust of wind swept through the hallway, and the temperature dropped drastically. He shivered, his breath visible in the air. And then he saw it. A shadow, moving toward him. He froze. A familiar figure stepped out of the shadows. It was the girl, the one who had been in the elevator with him earlier. The one with the red band. You shouldn't have ignored her, she said softly, her voice chilling. Now you're trapped here, just like she was. Dr. Rayhan's heart sank. He realized then, he hadn't just left Aisha behind in the basement. He had made a grave mistake. And now, the curse of the red band would follow him forever.